This video will walk you through what it means to write a rhetorical analysis. First, let's discuss the objective of a rhetorical analysis, and we can do that by defining the concept and breaking down terms. For instance, the word rhetorical simply means the art of persuasion. Analysis means to look at a text's parts and how they fit together. Put the two terms together and you have a definition of rhetorical analysis: to examine how an author attempts to persuade his or her audience by looking at the various components that are used to persuade. Ultimately, the objective of your rhetorical analysis is to show why a text was effective or persuasive. Keep in mind that when I say text, I mean either a written text or a visual text, such as an advertisement or persuasive image. To break down the parts of a text, you'll want to look at what we call the rhetorical appeals, or the three kinds of proofs a writer uses to persuade you. Let's talk about ethos first. Ethos involves using reputation, experience, and values of the author or an expert to support claims. I've included a picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. because he is viewed as a writer and speaker who has tremendous ethos. At the time of his I Have a Dream speech, he was well known for his outspoken behavior about injustice and racial inequalities, and he had even been in jail a few times for speaking his mind. Not only did he establish his credibility through his actions, but he also backs up his argument with impactful words. So it's important for an author to establish his or her ethos in order for the audience to believe the argument. Next is logos. Logos is an appeal to your logic and sense of reasoning. This ad that I've included reasons that you wouldn't harm your dog in order to wear his or her fur. By appealing to this sense of reason, the author assumes you'll make the connection to wearing fur. You might think twice about wearing fur because now you liken it to wearing your dog. Often, the author will use logos by incorporating statistics and facts as well, as these can also help prove a point. And finally, there's pathos. Pathos is an appeal to your emotions, and these emotions could be happy, sad, pain, enjoyment. The list could go on forever. You have to figure out what emotions the author is appealing or using to appeal to you, and analyze why and how this appeal is used. Sometimes pathos can be taken too far and ruin the argument. For instance, think about the commercials you often see for abused pets. How many times do you change the channel because you simply can't watch this commercial? Perhaps this commercial is an overuse of pathos. In fact, it's important to have a nice mix of all three appeals in order to really persuade your audience. Once you've examined the rhetorical appeals, it's now time to do some research. You can find research to help support your analysis by asking the following questions. Who is the author of the text? Is he or she credible? How do you know? Find out as much as you can about the author's background to really support your analysis. When was the text created and for what purpose? And who is the intended audience and what values are shared? By doing a little research, you can prove your point and persuade your own audience. Okay, now that you have the hang of analyzing and researching, let's talk about putting it all together. Of course, there are many ways to structure your analysis, but the following structure is one way to put it all together. You always want to start with an introduction. In the intro, make sure to identify the subject of analysis, state the purpose of your own analysis, and provide a thesis statement. Next is an explanation of rhetorical concepts, where you would explain the appeals you will use, including ethos, pathos, and logos. Provide historical context and summary. When and where was the text produced, or written, and why? Don't forget to spend a little time summarizing the text itself. Now you want to analyze the actual text. Interpret the text for your readers, breaking down the author's use of rhetorical appeals. In fact, you might even consider combining this section with the explanation of rhetorical appeals. And finally, the conclusion. Wrap it up. What does your analysis reveal? No matter what structure you use, make sure you identify your own purpose for analyzing the text and break down the ways that the author tries to appeal to his or her audience. And as always, ask your instructor if you have questions.